Sharing, council members Tony Cardenas and Bernard Parks, and hope they will arrive. We have 6 items on the agenda. We're going to go with the easy ones first. So let's see. We have a police lieutenant here. He's got to get back to crushing crime in the city because crime is down. What number are you on, Lieutenant?
Number 2, sir.
Let's do number 2. Start with number 2.
Okay, for item number 2, you have a city administrative officer report as well as a report from the Board of Police Commissioners. And this is regarding a grant from the United States Department of Homeland Security for the Archangel Technical Assistance Program. This for the period of October 1, 2007 through September 30, 2008. And there's related staffing associated with this. On February 4, 2008, the Public Safety Committee recommended approval of the recommendations contained in the CAO's report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Wilson from the CAO's office.
What's your first name?
Wilson.
Wilson.
Item 2 on the agenda is CAO report recommending the council authorize the police department to accept the 0708 Archangel grant. A bulk of these grant funds will be used for to reimburse the city for a fire captain, 3 MA2s, and 1 senior clerk typist. Our report is also recommending that the council continue resolution authority for the 3 MA2s and the 1 senior clerk typist. The fire captain, I believe, is an existing position that will be loaned from another department.
Now we have the police department representative. What are they getting out of this?
They're getting the 3 MA2s and the 1 senior clerk typist.
Fire department getting more than us? Police department?
No, sir.
We don't want that to happen.
No, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're joined by my colleague, Councilman Parks. It's not us anymore. Now we're council members. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Mr. Supervisor. Fire department, you here on this matter? Yes, sir. There's a matter that the governor just approved, additional dollars. Is that part of this, or is that addition to this? Go ahead, have a seat. The money the governor's throwing in for Homeland Security, a few $1 million, this is separate from that?
Separate from that.
Okay. So this then brings everyone up to standard what they need, or we still have gaps between the PD and the fire?
This brings us up to standard. It's continued funding of existing positions within Archangel.
Okay.
The new addition would be the fire captain.
And you have that position?
Yes, we filled that position, yes.
Okay. So this will keep our city safe from terrorists?
Yes, sir.
We hope so. That's what we're spending the money on. And have we received the money yet, or is it still pending? Because it started October 07 through September 08. Are we going to get back reimbursement?
Go ahead.
Well, it's on a reimbursable basis, so as we spend the money, they'll reimburse us.
Okay. And the state takes any of this, or does it all come to us? Do they get the 25% share, or does it all come to us? No. We get the whole thing?
Right.
Okay, because oftentimes the state takes 25% of these different grants. Okay, good. Mr. Parks, on number 2.
Let me just ask, and I don't have any questions on the grant, but any way that we can cause the reimbursement to be facilitated would be of great importance to us, because at minimum it creates a cash flow problem for us. And so when we look at the dates of this, it goes over, 2 fiscal years. So whatever you can do to facilitate would be important to us. There's no front-end money, but the reimbursement is important.
Understood. Does the CAO do that, or the CLA, or who does that? Who does the actual paperwork?
Department.
Well, that's the police department.
Yeah.
Police department does, okay, Lieutenant, you guys do that then?
Yeah.
They'll submit the reimbursements.
Because we put the money out, and then by the time it gets here, we've gone through another fiscal year, and we're already having issues with the budget. Anything else? Motion to approve?
Approve.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Let's do number 1.
Okay, in item 1, you have a report from the city administrative officer as well as city attorney. And this is regarding a grant from the Governor's Office of Emergency Services for the Anti-Gang Initiative for the period January 1, 2008 through December 31st, 2008. There's also related staffing on this one, and the Public Safety Committee has recommended approval. This item has also been recommended for approval by the Ad hoc Committee on Gang Violence and Youth Development. And the item is also referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
And maybe we can get that waived today if we can have all the answers. Number one,
Oh, no, we will wait. It's gone through 4 different committees, I think.
so we can get the Budget and Finance to waive it?
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and tell us what it's about?
Good afternoon, Patty Huber from the CAO. This is a grant for the City Attorney's Office Anti-Gang Initiative for $139,503. Position authority for the Deputy City Attorney 2 needs to be approved for the remainder of this fiscal year, January through June 30th. Thank you.
And I know that there's a whole issue with Councilman Cardenas' task force on gangs and Controller Chick's report that just came out. Does this have any bearing on that, or is this totally separate and distinct?
It's separate, but it's related. I mean, it's gang-related prosecution, but this whole program has to do with city attorney having a prosecutor over in the U.S. Attorney's Office doing gangs and guns.
So it doesn't deal with the nonprofits that are running those
No,
anti-gang
this
programs? This is
doesn't.
totally different for the enforcement side.
That's correct.
Okay. Motion?
We move that, and we'll waive that.
Great.
So waived out of budget and approved by personnel, so that means it can go to the council floor and have the program continue to get funded?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Number 3, please.
Make sure Lynn knows.
For item number 3, you have a city attorney report and an ordinance. This is relative to the amendment of Los Angeles Administrative Code. This is to establish a public service purchase program for members of the Fire and Police Pension Plan.
Yes, Mary Jo Kerwin, Deputy City Attorney, and I have submitted a substitute ordinance. If Commissioner Zine is kind enough to move that be substituted.
Yes, we will offer that. And the matter on substitution is on page number 3, D, correct?
Yes,
That's the area that we're having a modification to this. And this is a program where you can buy back service, and that service is full-time service may be purchased, no more than a total of 4 years of service may be purchased. Service with the branch of United States military service may be purchased only if the member was honorably discharged. Service with a bona fide police agency or fire suppressor agency may be purchased only if the member was not terminated for cause. And the individuals who take advantage of this would buy that, so there's no cost to the taxpayers.
that's the idea. It's based upon actuarial neutrality.
So it doesn't cost the general fund, doesn't cost the taxpayers, and what it does is actually gives them a little more time on their pension, so they can qualify for the pension earlier and utilize that time to
Correct.
give the pension the years required to retire. And this would apply to, we currently have it for civilian personnel. This is for police and fire, correct?
Correct.
And we have airport and harbor. Will they be included in this also?
Not airport, but the port police officers who belong to Tier 5 would be able to do this. Some port police officers, remain in lacers, so, but this would be applicable to those who are in the Tier 5 of the Fire and Police Pension Plan.
And does, can the airport do it under existing rules? Or
The airport are lacers members, so they're able to do it in the lacers provisions.
So this would then permit all city employees, all departments, the opportunity to have the buyback. There would be no exclusions?
DWP has a similar provision, so basically you would have, the terms differ in terms of how much you can purchase and the cost for it, but they would all now have
They'd have
the right
some-
to buy the time.
Every
Correct.
department would have some form, but previous to this, police and fire didn't have that opportunity.
Correct, they were not able to do it.
PPL and UFLAC, have they viewed the modification?
I believe that we were talking to some today, Marita with the CAO's office, the modification today was really just a clarification. It didn't change anything. We just realized that we didn't clearly state that any service can be be purchased subject to those limitations. But that was what the agreement was with the union. So this just really makes it clear that the all service can be purchased subject to those limitations, all public service.
Marita Aspen from the CAO's office. Yes, the revisions have been reviewed by UFLAC and LAPPL.
There's no dispute with that?
No.
Okay. Mr. Parks?
You know, one thing, and maybe you could just simplify an explanation of how it works, because in reading it, it gets very confusing. I mean, I can't make heads or tails out of how it operationally impacts. Because on one hand, we're saying it's not for vetting, it's not for drop. I mean, just practically, how does it work?
Well, basically, the whole thing is geared so that we tried as much as possible to make it cost neutral for the city, to make it adjusted, because people buy this in advance, and you don't know when they buy it in advance what their pension base is going to be when they retire. You don't know whether they have survivors and so forth, so that we're doing what they call a true-up at the time of retirement when the benefits, to make sure that the adjustments are made so that the person doesn't overpay or underpay for what they're buying.
Okay, but now, one thing that was unclear to me is that if they do it in advance, they can do it almost at any time in their career. I didn't quite understand, how do you separate that out that it's not available for vetting? Is it just for the financial benefit of extra years? It's not on whether you're eligible?
It's only used to basically increase the service, the formula for the service pension. It doesn't count to qualify you. You still have to put the 20 years in.
But you'd
You know,
retire with a 24-year pension.
You can add to it. So you have to still work the required amount of time for the department. This time will not count for that purpose.
Because I was wondering whether we, with all of the things we've done to keep people here, such as the 93% and drop and all that,
Don't forget the 312 plan.
well,
I know you like that
I
one.
don't say that. I don't say that in company with women. But the issue is this working in contravention of all those efforts?
Well, this is going to be a very expensive program, so I think that...
Expensive for the people buying into it, not for the taxpayers.
Right, but the person who wants to buy years of extra service, it's not going to be cheap. So I would think that if they could serve the time, with the department and not pay the money, that would be preferable. So I don't know
You're
whether...
saying most people will go for doing 33 years or doing drop and things as opposed to buying this time in?
I think if they're going to buy the time, they would be pretty committed to leaving, whether they could buy it or not. That'd be my take, because it's going to be quite an expensive cost to buy it.
Okay. So if somebody that does 20, say do 25 and they want to leave now, they can buy 4 more years for the
Right.
pension purposes?
Obviously, that's one of the provisions here. If somebody works the maximum of 33 years in Tier 5, then they're not going to be able to buy any time because
Yeah.
they won't get anything extra for it.
Yeah, okay,
So if they'd already bought some, they would get their money back.
okay, all right, okay.
So you come on the job at 21, and you had years of service in the military, and then you buy into this. Is there a minimum amount of years of service before you can buy into it? Or
You have
could
to buy at least 6 months. You can't buy less than 6 continuous months.
Could you buy it, you leave the police academy, and you're on probation. Could you buy it at your early part of the career, or does that, you have to have 20 years before you can buy into it
You can buy into it earlier, but you have to get the 20 years to collect a
to
pension.
qualify? So what happens is when you're a recruit, your salary level is in this category, and then you retire, your salary is in this category. You're buying at this category, correct?
Right. Mhm.
Which is a better investment for you financially, and then they give you the 4 years so you can retire. So, but you can't leave with less than the minimum number of years to retire, but you could buy into it anytime during your career, and if it's a lower salary, you're going to pay lower.
Well, the
That's
advantage
out.
to buying it, at the risk of making it sound more complicated, the advantage for someone buying it early in their career is that the money can be invested by the plan, and they can make the estimated earnings are 8%. So they can have that money, that would earn money to help pay for the cost, where if they pay at the last minute, they're going to have to pay, they wouldn't have that earning investment on the money that they put in. But if they don't make the 20 years, then they would just get back their money plus whatever interest would be paid on normal contributions. They wouldn't get the higher 8% rate.
Right, okay. It's a good program that, I know they've complained about it for years, they didn't have it, so now they have it, and if they want to take advantage of it, it's there. And again, no cost to the taxpayers, which is one of the main issues that we have to make sure. Mr. Parks?
That's it? Move that.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move that with the amendment. Number 4, please.
The city administrative officer is reporting relative to the status of major capital construction projects and financial actions needed to keep projects on track. This item has been heard by the Public Works Committee, and they have recommended approval of the CEO recommendations contained in their January 10 report. And this item is also referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alma Gibson with the CAO's office. Last year, we basically began transmitting these construction projects report, which again primarily consists of recommendations for funding adjustments related to the city's construction projects. And these adjustments are needed in order to keep the projects on track. Now, this is a third construction projects report, and it has already, again, been approved by Public Works Committee for policy and financial transaction recommendations. Now, this report is now before you for the approval of personnel adjustments, and the personnel adjustments are for projects funded for Prop F. We're recommending resolution authority, deletion of 1 senior clerk typist, and an addition of 1 secretary for Prop F, and for Prop DD, which is the library bond program, we're recommending the deletion of 1 architect associate 3 authority, and an addition of 1 civil engineer authority. And again, these recommendations are necessary in order to keep the projects on track. And again, these projects are funded by GOB bonds, therefore there is no impact to the general fund. We do have project managers here to help answer any questions you have specific to the projects.
So you're talking about losing 1 and gaining 1.
Exactly, for each project, for each program.
Sounds logical. How many of these projects are in budget and on time? Of all the projects that we have listed here?
For the library budget, the library program, they are on budget and on time. For Prop F, which is the Animal Facilities and Fire Facilities Bond Program, do we have a project manager here to help confirm? Maria.
For Proposition F, we are more than halfway through the bond program, and we're ahead of schedule on a lot of projects.
And you're on schedule?
Ahead of schedule, we have 1 fire station left to design and construct, which is Fire Station 82.
How about funding? Are you on time with the, you
For
in
the
the
library,
budget? You're ahead of
So
schedule, but are you on
We
budget?
do. We have project savings within the Proposition F program that still need to be reprogrammed, so we're doing very well there.
At this point, this is Ramon Soto with the CEO's office, and I'm in charge of the Proposition F program for our office, oversee it. Some projects are going to be late. For the most part, we're okay. On the animal bond program, we had siting issues with the South LA Animal Shelter, but that is now on track. And that is in design. For the fire bond program, the only item that's outstanding is Fire Station 82 in Hollywood, where we had, for several years, problems finding a site for that location.
Wasn't that going to go at the Florentine Gardens?
At one point, that was under consideration, however, that fell through. Last year, the voters passed Proposition J, which enabled the city to change the configuration of regional fire stations so that we're able to do on 2 contiguous sites. So now the current plan is to actually do Fire Station 82 on Hollywood Boulevard of Van Ness for the fire, the emergency operations section, and then the regional component, which involves building classroom space and provides storage area for reserve apparatus that is being built, that will be built on the existing site of old 82s. So that will be like one fire station city where things are not contiguous, if you will. On the budget, We're on track at this point overall to complete all projects within budget. The animal bond program, we expect to be tight. However, we do expect to do all 8 projects within the overall $154 million budget that was authorized by the voters. On the fire bond program, we're going to have lots of savings, it looks like, probably in the area of over $40 million. So we may be in a position actually to do 1 or 2 more projects.
Very good. Sounds like good management. Mr. Parks?
I would just like to see if you could give us an offline update on where we are on the South LA. And I know we've gone through several years of getting that back on track, but we just need an update. We haven't had one for a while.
Sure, we could contact your staff and give them an update.
That's the South Lake Animal Shelter?
Yes. Yeah, that's the, I got the right, that's 62nd in St. Andrews. No, we can just, we don't have to do it through the committee.
I'm sure she's happy not to have to do that
No.
today.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is we're about to enter design for the St. Andrews site. We've secured the site, and so we're going full force to build a shelter there. And I think we'll probably be finishing construction there around 2011 or so.
Okay.
And you can make sure the modifications that were brought up before are added to that shelter.
Yes, I understand.
Training and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure the program manager will take that into account.
Okay. And that is also scheduled to go to Budget and Finance. You want to waive that, Mr. Parks?
We can't waive that one.
Why not?
Why?
You don't want to?
No.
All right.
We have 5.
Trying to negotiate for you.
And we have several members that like to review this.
All right. Okay, so we're going to prove it here?
Yeah.
And then we'll continue it to the Budget and Finance. So you get to go again, but not today. No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. Number 5.
The city administrative officer is reporting relative to amendment number 1 to the 207-212 Management Employees Unit Memorandum of Understanding. This to reflect the need to wide rate an employee as part of a reorganization of airport department management staff.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Susan Harbach with CAO staff, and what you have before you is an MOU amendment for the manager's unit. Recently, the airport department had a reorganization that resulted in one of their managers being moved to a lower paid position. As part of the MOU, we are required to negotiate with the union over those types of actions. As a result of that, we have negotiated a 2-year Y rate for the affected employee.
We have the airport here.
Yes.
You want to land, please? Mr. Sampson? Coming in on runway 2.
As long as it's not the north runway.
Okay. He knows all the runways.
I know.
The concern I had on this matter was on the salary differential, which is about $40,000. The activity of this individual from the current position to the new position for the 2-year period of time, are the activities, I know there's some reorganization taking place in the airport. Is the responsibilities in the same general category, or are they much different than were previously handled by this individual?
It's slightly different. Primarily, the public relations and communications and the community relations was under this employee. In the current configuration, in addition to those, there is a new customer relations element added to that.
Okay. Because as the airport goes through some changes, I know that the airport general manager has a vision to make it better and to renovate, et cetera, to modernize. The concern I have is that when we're doing salary adjustment, that we be cognizant of the financial situation facing the city. And I go back to my days in the police department. When you're a status of a lieutenant and then you're doing sergeant work, you get sergeant pay. If you're doing captain work, you get captain pay. So I got a concern that we somehow align that properly, because we do have financial issues. I know the airport has financial issues. I just want to be fair to the employees, but also when we have limited funds, as we do, and the mayor's asked us to turn in cars and cell phones and Blackberries and furlough days, there's definitely some financial considerations. So I'm looking at that aspect along with everything else. And the personnel costs are the most extreme that we have for the city budget. So every dollar we save is a dollar that we can invest in some other services. So whatever else the airport plans, please let the GM know that we're concerned about that. And if you're coming with a whole list of Y-rated, it's going to be a problem for me. So I'm being very candid with you on that.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. Parks?
Yeah, I think what came out of the EERC, and I think everybody wants to be fair, but we do need to have a roadmap of where you're going so that we're not dealing with these incrementally. I think that's the message, so we get an idea that there's an agreement on what the reorganization is, and then we find out that, rather than us approving position by position and not knowing how it all fits in what context.
Because every general manager has a vision, has a plan, but then we've got to make sure the dollars are there to go around.
It's duly noted. We'll be happy to provide you the overall vision of the organizational structure and what it's intended to do. Primarily, the focus has been to convert the department's organizational structure, one from planning to a project delivery. As you know, we're getting into major capital projects now. The Midfield Concourse, the City Council has approved worth $2 to $3 billion. That's coming in front of us. So the general new organization is headed in a project delivery, capital program delivery aspect of it, and then we'll be happy to provide additional information as necessary.
Okay, and we're pleased with the direction of the airport general manager. Just finances are a major issue that we need to deal with on the city. And if you've been reading the budget, it's not looking real popular, not only here but the state. Okay, anything else on that?
We'll move that.
So Mr. Parks moves. Second, the matter is now resolved to approve.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Number 6, please.
The Personnel Department is reporting relative to consolidated reasonable accommodations for employees with permanent work restrictions. This is the result of industrial or non-industrial injuries or illnesses for the second quarter of fiscal year 2007-08.
Hi, I'm Michael Gold with the Personnel Department. I'm the Citywide Reasonable Accommodations Coordinator. To my right is Ben Reynolds from Workers' Compensation. We've provided you with a report that includes some information about workers' compensation activity in the second quarter of 07-08. It includes light duty hours worked for the quarter. It also includes injured on duty pay spent and saved for that quarter. The second attachment includes information on reasonable accommodations for city employees that are accommodated within their own department. And then the final part of the report includes information about those employees who couldn't be accommodated within their own departments who were referred out to citywide placement, and staff at the Personnel Department is working to accommodate them citywide.
Ms. Parks?
No, I have no question.
It seems reasonable, and we're saving money, $1.7 million.
On workers' comp?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's good. Phyllis, what do you have to say about this?
It's good.
I wouldn't ask you how the Pinkberry was. Good. Okay, we will receive and file. Receive and file. Okay. Receive and file. All right, that's it. Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda. There's no cards from the public, so we are concluded at 10 minutes to 4.